my beloved child. Tonight, I want you to do something very difficult. I want you to stop judging yourself for a moment. Stop judging your progress. Stop judging your healing. Stop judging your mistakes. Stop judging where you are in life. Just for a few minutes, put down the weight you've been carrying, because there is something I need you to understand, something that may change the way you see yourself forever. You spend so much time focusing on who you aren't that you've forgotten to notice who you become. You focus on the goals you haven't reached, the prayers that haven't been answered, the dreams that haven't happened, the healing that isn't complete, the questions that remain unanswered. And because of that, you overlook something extraordinary. You survived. You survived days you thought would destroy you. You survived nights you thought would never end. You survived disappointments that stole your breath. You survived heartbreaks that changed you forever. You survived seasons that felt impossible. And somehow, you're still here, still listening, still hoping, still believing. And my child, that matters more than you realize. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who spent years struggling, years feeling lost, years feeling behind, years feeling like everyone else was moving forward while he remained stuck. Every night, he asked the same question. When will my life finally change? One evening, he imagined something. He imagined receiving a letter from his future self, a letter written 10 years ahead. And in that letter, his future self wrote, "Please stop being so hard on yourself." The man kept reading. You have no idea how strong you actually are. You have no idea how many people you're going to help. You have no idea how many prayers will be answered. You have no idea how much healing is coming. You have no idea how much your life is about to change. The man started crying because for the first time he realized something. The person living his future wasn't disappointed in him. The future version of himself was proud of him. My child, if the future version of you could sit beside you tonight, they wouldn't criticize you. They wouldn't shame you. They wouldn't focus on your failures. They would hug you because they know what you're about to survive. My child, one of the hardest things you've ever experienced is fighting battles nobody can see. Physical wounds receive sympathy. Visible pain receives attention. But invisible battles are different. Nobody sees anxiety. Nobody sees the overthinking. Nobody sees the sleepless nights. Nobody sees the fear. Nobody sees the loneliness. Nobody sees the emotional exhaustion. And because nobody sees it, you often feel like you have to carry it alone. But you are not carrying it alone. I've been with you every step, every tear, every prayer, every panic-filled moment, every lonely night, every exhausted morning. I was there, and I still am. There was once an old wooden bench in a park. For decades, people sat on it. Some sat there during their happiest moments. Some sat there during their worst moments. A young man once sat on that bench after losing everything. His plans, his confidence, his hope. He sat there convinced his life was over. Years later, he returned. Successful, happy, at peace. As he looked at the same bench, he laughed because he remembered how certain he was that his story had ended there. But it hadn't. It was only beginning. My child, right now you are sitting on that bench. Not literally, emotionally. You're standing in a chapter that feels permanent, a chapter that feels bigger than your future, a chapter that feels endless. But one day you'll look back, and you'll realize this wasn't the end. This was the beginning. My beloved child, there is something nobody talks about. Being strong is exhausting. People admire strong people, depend on strong people, expect strong people to keep going. But nobody asks strong people if they're tired. Nobody asks if they need help. Nobody asks if they're struggling, because everyone assumes they're fine. And perhaps that's part of your story. You become the strong one, the reliable one, the dependable one, the one who carries everyone else's burdens, the one who encourages others, the one who keeps moving, the one who stays calm. But deep down, sometimes you wish someone would carry you. Sometimes you wish someone would tell you it's okay to rest. Sometimes you wish someone would simply understand. My child, I understand. I always have. There was a night in your life when you felt completely alone. You remember it. Maybe it was after a breakup. Maybe after a loss. Maybe after betrayal. Maybe after receiving terrible news. Maybe after prayer seemed unanswered. You sat there wondering, God, where are you? What you didn't know was this. That night was one of the nights I was closest. Because when everyone else left, I stayed. When nobody else understood, I understood. When nobody else saw your tears, I saw every single one. And when you thought you were holding yourself together, it was my hand holding you. One day you're going to look in a mirror, and something unusual will happen. You'll see yourself differently, not because your appearance changed, but because your perspective changed. You'll stop seeing brokenness. You'll see strength. You'll stop seeing failure. You'll see growth. You'll stop seeing weakness. You'll see survival. You'll stop seeing what happened to you and start seeing what God brought you through. And in that moment, everything changes. My child, you keep asking why it happened, why the heartbreak happened, why the waiting happened, why the disappointment happened, why the struggle happened. And while I may not answer every question today, I will tell you this. Nothing was wasted. Not the tears, not the waiting, not the loneliness, not the fear, not the disappointment, not the sleepless nights. I used every piece of it to build wisdom, to build strength, to build faith, to build character, to build the future version of you, the version that's coming, the version that's healing, the version that's growing, the version that's learning to trust again, the version that's learning to smile again, the version that's learning to live again. My beloved child, there's coming a day when everything changes. Not because life suddenly becomes perfect, but because you finally see what I was doing. You'll understand why certain people left, why certain doors closed, why certain plans failed, why certain seasons lasted longer than expected. And when that day comes, you'll cry, not because you're hurting, but because you're grateful. Grateful that you didn't quit. Grateful that you survived. Grateful that I never left. Grateful that your worst season wasn't your final season. Grateful that the chapter you hated most became the chapter that made you who you are. My child, the version of you that cried last year, the version of you that thought they wouldn't make it, the version of you that felt completely broken, would be amazed by you today. Amazed that you're still standing. Amazed that you're still fighting. Amazed that you're still believing. Amazed that you're still here. And if you've made it this far, imagine what I'll do with the rest of your story. Because I am not finished. The healing isn't finished. The growth isn't finished. The blessings aren't finished. And your story certainly isn't finished. The best chapter is still ahead. Type, God brought me this far. Share this message with someone who secretly feels tired of being strong. Subscribe for daily God-inspired messages of hope, healing, faith, and restoration. And remember, the version of you that almost gave up would be incredibly proud of the person who kept going.